It's almost like the objectivist theory of aesthetics. Like there is the technical, there's the technical analysis of the art piece, and then there is the philosophical analysis. So he's failing on the philosophical front. He's really, really good in the technical front.
Yeah.
The position of these little things corresponds to where we are on our business graph here, okay? Like we move a thing, this moves, okay? So let's start. Let's say that an engineers are known to be a little weird. I like making things, right? I like making things from really cool materials. So if I were to run the company, I would say, you know what, John? I think we really need to make this out of a super alloy, niobium or fantastiloid. We need to do something that will never break because I like really high quality stuff. So what I might do if I were in control of things is I might say, you know what? We're going to take the quality of the product and we're going to run it to the max. We're going to run it to the max. And I would immediately run myself out of business because I would not make a profit. Look at this. No profit. The business is outside of the dotted line. We are no longer a viable.
Yeah, it's worth noting, like, there is kind of the Howard Rourke question here. Like, can you make really, really high quality stuff? Well, it depends on the nature of the good, because quality is not just, I suppose he's using it in a different sort of way, right? Because Howard Rourke's buildings, they're the highest quality for the purpose of the building, right? That's like the whole point. But that doesn't mean that he just uses, diamonds on everything or anything like that. For the purpose of a scrubber, this is perhaps, his scrubber is maybe already is approaching the Howard Rourke type of scrubber, where you're using like tool steel or what have you, or the mesh there.
There clearly is a market for things like that. For example, like back in the day, like the story is like if anybody has seen the great movie, like it's a really good movie, people should see it. Like Ford versus Ferrari. Like in that, like the mismatch between the two companies, Ford and Ferrari, is that the Ferrari guy, he makes cars for the love of the cars. He sells very little cars, like he's not as big as Ford, but he loves making it. Like he's an engineer. He loves to make things. And there's a market for that. And today I would say stuff like the Pagani cars, like Hiroshi Pagani, like he's a similar sort of guy. Like these are cars which are made to be perfect, like as good a car as it can be. And there's certainly a market for that, for people who want the best cars out there. And if I had infinite money, like if I had a lot of money, I would probably want a car like that. But there is also a market for the other thing, which is the best you can make at the given price. So I would say everybody can be a Howard Rourke at the price, so to speak. Like, yeah. So
I think I'll just say, I think it's interesting how he kind of implicitly understands that there is like a sort of equilibrium quality. Like he understands maximum quality, and however that's quantified isn't necessarily the best, and probably minimum isn't as well. So there's a question that's naturally raised, which is what is the correct amount of quality? And the answer you're going to get every single time is going to be take it to the market to find the equilibrium. So it almost seems like I don't see what his criticism could possibly be anymore, because it is the case that certainly some companies could just nuke the quality of whatever they're producing, but it seems like he's kind of admitting that would not be very good for them. So there's going to be some correct amount of quality, and we got to find that with the market. So I don't really see what his criticism is.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like he has to assume that if he makes whatever the quote highest quality thing, I think he would need to qualify that. But if you make the highest quality thing, he's assuming that there would be that no customer could possibly exist that would want to purchase it at the material cost or labor cost of that product that he just made, which, I mean, I guess that's possible if he does put it on the market and no one buys it, but like I maybe he's putting the cart before the horse a little.
I'm pretty sure like revealed preferences in the market that show that there's a small but existent market for excellent products simply because they're excellent, simply because they're in effect art pieces. They're the best that could be, Like a Pagani car is basically you're driving an art piece. You're driving the best possible car that there can be. So there will probably always be a market for that, I would say. Though it will be small. You're dealing in luxury goods at that point.
Yeah, maybe I'm just taking it too literally.
I would do that because I think I mean, if I could still feed my family, I think super alloys are cool. All right, so let's look at another CEO. This is a second CEO This person's like the best person to work for in the world. He really likes the fact that you like to fish, and he really wants you to afford that new bass boat. So he pays you a lot of money. He's like, you know what? I really like my buddy here. I want this guy to make a lot of money. So he starts paying you more than you perhaps might need to be paid. And he's like, you know what? I also really want you to compete in that bass tournament. So I'm going to let you off at about 1 o'clock every day. Pretty soon, things are out of whack and you are no longer a viable business. He did not take the time to balance things. Of course, these are absurd examples, but you get the idea. Okay, now we have the third CEO. Now, this person is all about the money, okay? This person has started a business that makes
Taste.
it's a grill scrubber, for example, and he's got a product that's viable. Okay, it's a good balance between quality and people, but like it's not making a lot of profit. But then this person that gets in the director chair says, you know what? We really need to make more money. And the way I think we can do that is instead of using this 304 stainless steel or 303, whatever it is, instead of using that, I think we can use a lower quality alloy that we can source from overseas. And what we'll do is we'll just, you know what, we'll just make our profit go up. And look at that, our quality went down, went further away from that, but our profit went up. That's good, right? Okay, so we're right here in the sweet spot. You know, people still love us. Everything's great. Oh, but if you look at this, there's still profit to be had in the system here. Look at this gap here. So what we could do is we've got these workers here. What if we paid the workers less? In fact, let's not even hire permanent workers anymore.
You couldn't do that. You can't just choose to pay the workers less. Why would they stay? Like, there is a market out there. You're competing with other firms here, you know?
I also just want to pick up the thread that I left earlier with how he's talking about how they're looking for short-term gains, because this is going to become clear as he's throwing out this example. They're looking for short-term gains at the expense of long-term good, right? What is making companies irrationally short-termed? What is doing that is central banking. They introduce a bunch of fake money, fiduciary media, which causes these boom-bust cycles over and over and over again, and it fucks up all of the planning of every entrepreneur out there. It makes them engage in clustered malinvestment. That's the important term here, malinvestment. That means they're making wrong investments, right? And we know that it's clustered every single time there's a boom, right? Why is this? Because there's a bunch of fiduciary media being put out there. That's why they're so short-term oriented. This is what is truly causing the enshittification of everything, is fiat money. With fiat money, you get fiat goods. Goods marred by fiat. That's what ends up happening. So that's why everything turns to shit.
Exactly.
And crucially, this has nothing to do with capitalism. That is a state intervention.
Yeah. And you know, like I really want to also hammer this in that, you know, he's going to be basically like, oh yeah, let's make the quality of the good really, really cheap. Let's make its price really, really high, and let's pay our workers really, really less. Like what he's just analyzing this from the like wildest dream that a producer can have, but that's not economic reality. Like that producer will not produce profit. Like I think by profit he means like the I don't know, like the fantasy profit.
He thinks you can just because he thinks they are just different variables, because he's not taking into account whether people are actually buying the fucking thing any longer, if the quality's plummeting and everybody's hating it. You know, he's not taking that into account at all in this model. Like, if you make a really shitty product, people are going to stop buying it. It goes into a different tier of product, and your customer base no longer wants to buy it.
Exactly. Like, so like, you know, this is, I don't know what to call it. What are you maximizing? Like, he's just maximizing, like, the wildest dream of the producer. That everybody else just, you know, conforms to his.
No, they could sell a toothbrush and then people will still buy it, because a toothbrush is a lot cheaper to produce than a grill scrubber.
You kind of have to assume that there's necessarily no competition in this model, like just completely.
Yeah,
which is
no competition anywhere. Like not even on the worker side. Like the workers will just accept the fact that now they're getting paid $0.01, you know, because like they have nowhere else to go, you know.
I think this is a pretty prevalent area you see a lot of people doing, and it stems from people just forgetting really, really basic economics, just supply and demand. Right? Supply and demand tells us there's some correct equilibrium price where the company can make the most money. And some people say, oh, well, they forget about that, and they say, oh, well, what if the company just wanted to charge, infinite money for a pair of shoes or whatever? It's like, well, actually, if a company charges $1 million for a pair of shoes, that's not going to be very profitable for them. Similarly, if they charge $1 for most pairs of shoes, that's not going to be profitable, right? So it's not necessarily the case that just jacking your prices up as high as you possibly can will make the most money. Like Mon was saying, that's the producer's dream, but it's just forgetting about supply and demand and equilibrium, right? If a producer is actually trying to be profitable, they're going to try to approach equilibrium. They're going to get as close to there as they possibly can. And, when you see all of these firms just being pushed away from equilibrium, well, that should, if you're an economist, your brain should start like ticking right there, and you should try to look for something like Liquid Zulu's talking about, which is this introduction of fiat currency. Because on a free market, you don't just see these firms being pushed away from equilibrium out of the blue. That can only happen from some sort of state intervention coming in and forcing these firms away from equilibrium, which is exactly what Austrian business cycle theory highlights.
Yeah, the graph kind of suggests that if you lower the quality and the well-being, that like you're necessarily going to get the maximal profit. It's
necessarily is a very important word there. Necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Necessarily going to get the most profit by lowering these things. Like, okay.
And exactly.
No.
And I want you guys to also notice that the other two analyses that he did, one was in which like the guy like really, really cares about his workers, like irrationally so, in which like the guy just becomes, he sponsored, 365 paid work leaves, out of the year. Like that's clearly the business is not going to work because there's going to be no labor. The other one was, well, if he makes a really, really, really good product, but that nobody wants to buy because it's too expensive or something like that, the business is not going to work. But in the third one, like in both of these analyses, this is like pro-reality analyses. Like these are valid analyses. But in the third one, it's like, like not asking if the business will work or not. It's just, but what does that, producer actually desire? The third one is completely whim-based. So the triangle kind of breaks in, like these are not the same kinds of things being talked about,
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think they're connected in the way that the triangle is demonstrating.
Yeah.
Let's hire contract employees, give them no future in the company, just temporary workers. Yeah, let's do that. So let's just push our profits up even higher. Yeah, we can start exploiting people. Look at that. Oh man. Look, our.
What do you mean you start exploiting people?
Oh my God.
Throwing that term around. He's just throwing the term around without meaning anything.
Like when you start making less than some like arbitrary standard amount of money, it's just all of a sudden exploitation. It's like perfectly above board. And then, your wage falls below like, I don't know, $20 an hour. And it's like, oh, exploitation. No.
It's once again, like don't deal with the poor person theory of economics. If you deal with the poor person at all and you pay him less than the prevailing wage, you're exploiting him, Have you guys seen the meme, in which like if the if the capitalist lowers prices, he's trying to price the competition out. If he keeps prices the same as the competition, he's forming a cartel. If he raises prices, like then now he's exploiting people.
It's price gouging.
There's nothing that you could do. Yeah, now he's price gouging. Like there is nothing that you could do as a capitalist that will be good. Like it feels like that. Like why is this an exploitation? Why is hiring people for cheaper a bad thing?
That's why I think it's worthwhile That's why I think it's worthwhile that we are going kind of hard against Mar Everyday here, because he's got a really big channel. He's just kind of learned some of this stuff through osmosis, or from like, as Man is saying, picking up like the first book on the shelf, and like he's putting out these like really destructive lies about what capitalists believe. Like I think he should go to some capitalists, go to the Mises Institute, ask what do capitalists actually believe. What do capitalists actually advocate for? I don't think he's done that. He just hasn't actually asked what the capitalists advocate for. He's just kind of only heard critiques of capitalism. I think that's a big problem with what he's doing here. Like, he doesn't do that for anything. I've seen him go on videos where he's like, he wants to learn more about how farming works. So he goes and talks to farmers. Why in the video where he's trying to learn how capitalism works is he not talking to capitalists? Where are the capitalists? Why hasn't he visited the Mises Institute Auburn, he's in Alabama, right? He could visit Fee. Fee is headquartered in Alabama. He could just visit them, ask them, what is capitalism all about?
Isn't Mises at Auburn as well?
Yeah. That's Mises. No. Fee was headquartered in Georgia. I can't remember where Fee's headquartered. Yeah, no, I think I was thinking of Mises Institute. Yeah. Dustin, if you're watching this video, please, or Destin, I can't remember how his name's pronounced. If you're watching this video, please go to Auburn, Alabama, talk to the Mises Institute. If you're going to be doing every other video where you want to learn about some topic, you go and talk to the people who are experts in that topic. Why are we not seeing on the topic of capitalism any capitalists turn up? Why are none of the people who are advocating for capitalism turning up in this video? Why is he not talking to these people? Like, I think that's a big problem.
Yeah.
The video did well too, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like it in terms of ratio, like dislike and everything.
I mean, yeah, he's a very popular
Very
YouTuber.
well.
This is like normie food, man. Like this is stuff which is well produced with, a lot of virtues, but really bad ideas on economics and philosophy. The normies are gonna eat it up. Like there's no doubt about it. This will do well.
Yeah, it's just this really weird phenomena where people talk about capitalism and love to critique it without ever like defining it. Like you'd think that in any video where you're arguing against something, you'd like get some definitions out, like if you see people doing a debate, the first thing they normally do is like, all right, let's define our terms. But often you don't see that with capitalism. And so you just get a kind of like conflation of capitalism with some like vague status quo collection of policies. I think it's very devious, honestly. I don't know if Smarter Every Day particularly is, but generally when you see this kind of thing, I think it's pretty devious.
Well, it's very convenient for the Marxists to load questions and to subvert, the English language however they need.
I think this is why when I first started SnackTube, why I was very clear about how I didn't want it to just be channels which are explicitly capitalist. I was also fine accepting channels where it is an ancap behind the scenes, but they're just making whatever kind of content. Because I think this is how this type of thinking seeps into the culture. Like if there's been for a long time, it's not so much anymore. But for a long time, if you watch any of the top streamers on Twitch, for instance, every single one of them are going to be an LA socialist. Every single one of them. Because that's just the culture that seeps through. And so they all just kind of adopt the same culture. And that's just how it gets adopted by osmosis. By people like Smarter Every Day. And he shouldn't be thinking this way. He's a smart guy. Clearly, he's very intelligent. He's able to create a bunch of great things. He should not be thinking this way about the economy. He absolutely should not.
Exactly. And
he's a business owner.
There is also this conflation between when people say capitalists, they don't mean capitalists, they mean entrepreneurs or like business people, which is also something we should call out. It's like socialist, like the socialist is not a guy who works for the Soviet Union. A socialist is someone who believes in socialist theory. Similarly, a capitalist is not someone who is engaging in a free market. A capitalist is someone who believes in capitalist theory. So you don't if Smarter Every Day watches this and he says, "Oh, I talk to capitalists. I talk to this business owner." No, that's not a capitalist. That's a business owner. Talk to like theory bros. Talk to economists. Talk to philosophers of capitalism. That's what we mean. That's in today's culture important to point out.
Why doesn't he test his own theory right now? Since supposedly he owns, I'm pretty sure he owns a business. Why doesn't he lower the product quality entirely as cheap as possible, and also treat his workers like shit and see what happens within his business? He could disprove his own theory in real time if he actually wanted to. Would his profit go up?
He'd become like a trillionaire.
With his, I guess he just doesn't want the money or something. That would be his reasoning. I don't know.
Yeah.